Welcome to Teachers Talking Teaching, where we celebrate and elevate the art of teaching.
We're back this week with Andrew Shumate, and last week we heard about his origin story for how he became a teacher. This week we're going to be digging into a little more about things he does in his classroom. So, Andrew, last week you mentioned that you're working on a master's in science, so you must have passion for science education. Oh, yeah. So let's dig into that a little. Tell us a little more about your science passions.
Absolutely. When I look back just at my own experience in school and whatnot, it's always just been something I've gravitated towards. So I taught for 3.5 years, took a break, did some undergraduate work at Colorado State University in their zoology program. And while doing that, I worked at a local science museum. And then currently I'm enrolled as a graduate student in Miami University's inquiry-based Project Dragonfly. Long title. The program is under Project Dragonfly, which is a National Science Foundation sponsored program housed within Miami University. And they have a graduate program that is built around conservation biology, essentially. And then they do a graduate program which uses inquiry-based science teaching to teach conservation biology, which they then hope that you can carry on. They specifically cater it for educators. Mm-hmm. It's kind of built around the seasonality of a teacher schedule, but really taking a conservation-rooted approach, using inquiry-based science instruction to teach that so that you can carry that into your own classroom. And then the other teachers in my cohort and I have really found that this inquiry-based approach, while science is a great place to start it, use kids' natural curiosity to explore some of these topics, you can really have that jump cross-curricularly into other areas. But been interested in my science my whole life, particularly biological sciences. I'm a huge animal nerd. The cat left. I don't know where it went, but no, that was making my day. So actually at the museum, I was doing, I've been at 2 museums. The first one I was doing informal education presentations on paleontology and marine biology. And then I was doing, in addition to other tasks at the museum, a lot of work around live animals, both their husbandry and then how we present them to the public in such a way that they can learn from them. So when I was doing that museum work, first as a volunteer, then paid, I really developed a passion for informal education. And oftentimes I found myself thinking, why are we not using these same techniques in the classroom? And yes, while there are some logistical challenges, this idea of creating a moment for, in this case, a guest or for a student, that they can always, when they hear about a concept or a topic, they can go back and say, I remember this time when I was in a museum and someone explained what this was to me on a dinosaur, or what this meant in the grand scale of time and life, or when I was in a museum or zoo and I got to handle this animal or see this animal, and it was an example of this concept playing out in nature. It seems like we oftentimes miss that in our formal teaching. So this graduate program that I'm in really tries to capture that same sense of awe and wonder, and then utilizing that as a vehicle for instruction, saying, wow, that's interesting. Take advantage of the student's own curiosity. And just like I talked about last week, kind of letting go of some of that control and equipping them with the tools, in this case, a scientific methodology to take from that moment, take from that experience, do their own research, look into things themselves, and with a curiosity-driven and inquiry-driven approach, learn more about the world around them.
Yeah. So what have you seen with student engagement? So as you brought maybe a more inquiry approach to not just science, but to all subjects in your elementary classroom, what have you noticed about the students' reaction to that?
The first curricular jump for me that was easiest to make was writing. So I used to be like, here's the topic you can write about, whether it be, your opinion essay, or
There he
you
is.
heard me talking about you, and there you are. There you are, my friend. And literally just keeping it as open-ended as, okay, we're writing an opinion essay. And then I'll usually do a model one with them. Right now, we're going to do one on school uniforms. Okay, that's the one I'm going to kind of hold their hand through, right? And then from there, really trying to create space for like, okay, what's something you're passionate about? And this is, where it gets a little, like, you have to be there, guide on the side style, like, okay, we have to make sure that you're not just like going off about why Star Wars is so great. Okay, we all get it. Star Wars is awesome. But as compared to what? Okay, it's a great movie. Okay, in the context of other science fiction movies? Sure, okay. So what makes it a great science fiction movie? And then sending them out to pull the specific details and whatnot. It's something they're passionate about, so naturally they're just going to invest in it more. At least that's what I'm finding. And I can just see that in my own world. Like, how many PDs have I sat in where I'm just like, yeah, absolutely. And then there's some that, actually you're like, wow, I'm getting a lot out of this because I have some investment in it. And we expect kids to not act the same way. That's kind of silly, right? So of course they're going to have naturally have things that they gravitate towards. And rather than like trying to like, okay, cool it off on that for a little bit because we need to talk about this. No, let's invest in that. Let them explore that. Let them. So again, a lot of it has been checking my own control so that they can have the opportunity to do that. And I think science is a great place to start with that. I have yet to meet an elementary schooler who wasn't excited when we started science time. And then I'm getting to use some other curriculum lines right now, and it's super sad to see some of that get squashed because like, nope, there's a methodology for this. And there is. But why don't we start with what they're interested in, let them ask questions about what they're seeing, and then we can introduce methodology as a way for them to learn more about that.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can get super specific in that. That was kind of just really vague. But yeah, so.
So what would you say are the perfect, like, let's go back to science for just a second. If you had to teach like the perfect science lesson, like, is there like, a format in your head, like this is what we're going to start with, like kind of take us through like a perfect day in the life
Perfect
of
day.
Andrew's science
Man,
class.
well, first of all, it would be all day.
Which is such a challenge in elementary
Exactly,
school.
right?
Like,
Yeah.
fitting it in is one of the biggest challenges.
Right? You're told you have this 40-minute block for 2 weeks, and then you got to alternate to social studies.
Yes.
Exactly.
We don't have time for both.
No,
Yeah.
goodness
Right.
no.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid. We teach science and social studies on the same day. But first of all day would be great. And then my particular emphasis right now is in conservation biology. So thankfully we're in Colorado. There are some incredible opportunities to take advantage of, both in terms of purpose-built educational facilities and then nature reserves. So Daniels Park in Denver has a conservation herd of bison. We could go there, and it's incredible. The bison are free roaming. Teachers, this is actually a resource you can take advantage of. It's run by Denver Mountain Parks. Give them a call. Anyway.
I appreciate the plug.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you can observe, just look around, ask questions. You might have to do some leading questions. What types of plants are you seeing? You're going to notice there's bison droppings everywhere. What do we think this means? When you look around at the surrounding landscape, what else do you notice? Okay, what's close to us? There's a housing development here. There's new construction over here. There's a fence surrounding the entire thing here. Okay, let's put all this together. What narrative can we create here? Okay, maybe the bison's territory has gotten smaller. Okay, maybe there are plant species missing that should naturally be here. Maybe there are things that take care of those bison droppings that have since gone away because of our development. And this isn't, I'm not just coming up with this. This is actually a model lesson that we did in my graduate program. So these are all things. So giving kids the real thing, not just like, okay, we're gonna look at some pictures here about,
Or a video.
Exactly. No, we can go in, and again, if logistics weren't a thing. I know your buses cost money and then parent volunteers, I know. But if we can put the real things in front of kids, I think that naturally their own curiosity and that desire to know more, that'll kick in. And in fact, when we did this demo lesson, we did it one day. We got a half-day briefing to go through all of that, and then we took in a group of summer school students from DPS. These were kids who did not do well over the course of the school year. That's why they're in summer school. A lot of student athletes whose GPA dropped to a certain point, and they were trying to get it back up. Everything we talked about as graduate students, they were able to pick up on without a lot of leading. So, I mean, the power of giving students access to the real thing, putting them in those environments where they have the opportunity to ask questions, look at the world around them and say, I see this, I would think I'd see this, but I don't, or I'm also seeing this and it doesn't make sense to me. Giving them the opportunity to do that in the real world, I think is so powerful. And I don't think in the way we've established our educational systems and our risk-adverse nature that is public education, I don't think we get to touch on that quite enough. And again, I've just been in it for 4.5 years. What do I know? But
well, you know about their sense of wonder. Like, tapping into that is exactly like Tracy said. It's that how do you expect to get them engaged if you don't engage their sense of wonder? And it sounds like that's exactly what you're encouraging.
And the ability to make connections. Like you just described a beautiful science and social studies blended lesson. Yeah. When you think about the concepts and questions that arise out of that experience, kids understanding their world and some of the constraints, of urbanization and different things that it has on conservation biology.
Right. And that being able to establish that systems thinking, right? Because that's, when you talk about STEM, okay, that's really the link between science and engineering, is being able to look at it and not as an individual part, but as a piece of a larger system. And I think that's been the biggest thing that I've been trying to instill in my students this year is, and that's even like pulling back the curtain on their own learning, right? We're going to learn this in math today so that tomorrow you can do this. And being able to recognize that it's not just in isolation that we do these things, that we live our lives, that we play out these practices that we've learned, but it is a part of a larger system that we utilize every day.
Absolutely.
That's making those connections, particularly in elementary school, just feeds forward so incredibly, as they go into middle school, high school, and out into their lives. Like one of the things that, a best hope might be that you've inspired like a future scientist, to put all of those pieces together.
Absolutely.
To do better for the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that's the dream of every educator. Is
We're
hoping to inspire.
Solve all the problems we created.
That's exactly right. Like, create the capacity to solve the problems that we don't yet know exist.
Absolutely. And being able to, look up river, if people are falling in the river, do we create a search and rescue team, or do we go upriver and say, okay, why are people jumping in the first place? And can we stop that from happening? And can we look at our own learning? This isn't making sense to me. Okay, is it really this, or do we have a gap back here? And being able to promote that metacognition for kids, and we talked last week about how having those differentiated groups, being able to say, okay, yeah, we can fix this today, but also is there another issue there where we need to pull a more stable group? So it's impacted my own teaching, just being able to analyze situations with that mindset. And it's all through science. So, teach science, please.
I think that's probably the best plug to end our podcast today. Please, elementary teachers, make time for science.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
It was a pleasure learning from you, Andrew. Thank you.
Well, hey, thanks for letting me crack wise about stuff. I appreciate it.
Anytime. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
If you liked what you heard today, go to our Facebook page and like and subscribe. You can also go to YouTube and join our YouTube channel, as well as listen to us on your favorite podcasting app.